the islands of Indonesia, a realm of extraordinary natural beauty. Here, emerald forests once clung tenaciously to volcanic slopes. West Sumatra, a jewel in this archipelago, pulsed with life. Its mountains, ancient and stoic, watched over communities nestled in their folds. Rivers, like silver ribbons, carved paths through fertile valleys, nourishing the land and its people. Life here, for generations, had followed the rhythm of the seasons, a delicate dance between humanity and a powerful yet seemingly benevolent nature. Villages dotted the landscape, their homes often built from the very forests that surrounded them. Farmers tended their terraced paddies, their lives intricately woven with the cycles of rain and sun. The scent of spices and damp earth was a constant, comforting presence. Yet even in such idyllic settings, the earth holds immense power. The ground beneath their feet was not always as stable as it appeared. The stage was being set, unbeknownst to most, for a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. The year 2024 began with an ominous intensity in West Sumatra. The rainy season arrived with unusual ferocity. January saw relentless downpours into February and March. The sheer volume of water saturated the land. Torrential rain swelled rivers and turned streams into torrents. The soil became a sodden sponge, heavy and unstable. Meteorological data painted a stark picture. 300 millimeters of rain fell in 6 hours. The deluge weakened the hillsides. The earth began to lose its cohesion. The critical period arrived on March 7th. The land could hold no more. The mountains were about to unleash a terrifying power. Among the many communities caught in nature's fury, the remote village of Simpang Dalam faced an almost unimaginable fate. Home to 267 souls, this settlement was nestled in what once seemed a protective embrace of the hills. But on that terrible day in March, its location became its undoing. Without any specific direct warning of the horror to come, the residents were largely unprepared for the scale of the disaster. The relentless rain had been a concern, certainly, causing localized flooding and difficulties, but the earth itself giving way on such a monumental scale was beyond their immediate fears. Then, the mountain moved. A vast section of the hillside, saturated to its core and destabilized, detached itself and came crashing down. More than 30 feet of earth, rock and debris engulfed Simpang Dalam. Houses, pathways, the very contours of the land vanished in moments. The sound, survivors from nearby areas would later recall, was a deafening roar, a monstrous exhalation from the earth itself. The village of Simpang Dalam, once a home, became a tomb, a stark testament to the overwhelming power of a landslide. The catastrophic landslides in West Sumatra were not solely an act of nature, untamed and unpredictable. Human actions over many years had grievously wounded the land, stripping it of its natural defenses. Deforestation, driven by the demand for timber and the clearing of land for agriculture, had left vast scars upon the hillsides. The ancient forests, with their complex root systems that once bound the soil together like a living net, had been systematically removed in many critical areas. These trees were more than just timber. They were the guardians of the slopes. When these forests were cut down, often through illegal logging operations, the soil was left exposed and vulnerable. Without the protective embrace of the trees, rainwater flowed unimpeded across the surface, washing away topsoil and saturating the deeper layers far more quickly. The land's capacity to withstand prolonged downpours was critically diminished. The earth was sending signals, but the system to listen and respond was tragically insufficient. When the saturated slopes finally gave way, the movement was not a gentle slide. It was an explosion of terrestrial energy. The landslides in West Sumatra moved with terrifying speed. estimated in some areas to be up to 80 kilometers per hour. This is comparable to a speeding vehicle on a highway or the initial surge of an avalanche of snow, but composed of dense, heavy earth, rock, and uprooted trees. The sheer momentum was unstoppable. Anything in its path, homes, roads, bridges, forests, was instantly overwhelmed and obliterated or carried away. Survivors described the advancing mud not as a simple flow of wet soil, but as a monstrous entity with a mind of its own. It didn't just cover, it consumed. The sound alone was petrifying, a deep, guttural roar that seemed to emanate from the very bowels of the earth. The force exerted by such a mass of moving earth is difficult to comprehend. The mountains, which had stood as silent, steadfast features of the landscape for generations, had revealed their latent, devastating power in a matter of minutes. Amidst the chaos and despair in West Sumatra, stories of profound loss were interwoven with acts of incredible courage. Rahmat, a 32-year-old father, endured an unimaginable tragedy. He lost his beloved wife and his young son to the crushing force of the landslide. Yet, in the immediate aftermath, grief-stricken but driven by an instinct to help, he reportedly saved 11 of his neighbors, pulling them from the mud and debris with his bare hands. The pain of such loss is immeasurable. For Rahmat and countless others, life was irrevocably altered. The homes they had built, the communities they cherished, the loved ones they held dear, all were ravaged or stolen by the moving earth. Rahmat, channeling his grief into action, now leads a local education campaign called Code Tana, the Land Code. Another story, heartbreaking in its innocence and prescience, is that of 9-year-old Lara. It is said that just 3 days before the landslide devastated her community, Lara drew a picture. Her drawing, however, did. The immediate aftermath of the landslides was a scene of utter devastation and chaos. Rescue efforts were launched, but they faced monumental challenges from the very outset. The same forces that had destroyed homes and villages also crippled the infrastructure essential for a swift response. Power outages plunged affected areas into darkness, hampering nighttime searches. Roads, the lifelines for bringing in help and evacuating the injured, were severed, buried under tons of mud and debris, or simply washed away. Bridges, vital connectors across rivers and ravines, were damaged or completely destroyed. In some of the worst-hit areas, including remote communities like Simpang Dalam, it took rescue teams more than 72 hours to reach them. This delay was agonizing for any potential survivors trapped in the debris and for anxious relatives awaiting news. The sheer scale of the disaster overwhelmed local capacities. The immediate focus was on saving lives and providing basic necessities, but it was clear that the path to recovery for the affected communities would be incredibly long and arduous. The devastating landslides of March 2024 served as a brutal reminder of the urgent need for enhanced preparedness and a deeper understanding of the land. One of the most critical lessons learned was the inadequacy of existing warning systems, particularly for landslides. While flood sensors were in place, they failed to detect the subtle but critical signs of slope movement. This has spurred a push for localized early warning systems, specifically designed for landslide detection. New types of sensors, capable of measuring ground deformation, soil moisture at depth, and even acoustic signals from within the earth, are now being tested and considered for wider deployment. The importance of community-level preparedness and disaster drills was also starkly highlighted. Reports indicated that villages which had previously conducted disaster drills and had established local response plans generally suffered fewer casualties. This underscores the value of empowering communities with knowledge and practical skills. The Code Tana initiative, born from tragedy, is a prime example of this grassroots empowerment. As West Sumatra heals, scientists and communities innovate to understand and anticipate Earth's movements. Subsonic tremors are a key focus. Survivors heard a deep hum before landslides. These sounds might indicate subsurface instability. Advanced sensors and AI offer new early warning possibilities. Investment in technology is crucial. Early warnings could save lives. Respecting nature and empowering communities is key. Reforestation and sustainable practices are essential. Integrating traditional knowledge with modern science. Listening to the mountain's echoes may prevent future devastation.